Breaking news. Fans Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin have secretly filed for divorce after 20 years of an apparently ideal relationship. Yes, you heard that? This power couple has reached an unexpected breaking point after years of ups and downs. And the shocking news that you never expected just hit the internet and is sending waves through the entertainment industry. The specifics are, how could this happen? What went wrong? Chrissy, who has been by Jim's side through thick and thin, is suddenly distraught and caught off guard. What caused this stunning breakup? Was it a dramatic fight? A betrayal or something else entirely? Pouring out, fans are in full astonishment. Rumor has it that the divorce was kept a secret for months. But fans are shocked as the truth starts to come to light. Jim Jones, who was once thought of as a faithful partner, is now at the center of a media frenzy, leaving Chrissy and their fans wondering what caused one of the reality TV stars to fail. Most famous couples. Is there more to the story than we're being told? Stay tuned as we explore this explosive breakup and reveal the startling details of Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's covert divorce. Fans are finding it difficult to believe that Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's abrupt divorce has occurred after 20 years together. The famous couple who were once inseparable are now facing a devastating breakup. But what exactly caused this dramatic turn of events? While many fans believe Jim and Chrissy had survived the storm, recent reports point to a deeper turmoil that was kept out of the public eye, leaving everyone wondering what went wrong. The relationship had been on the rocks for a while, according to those close to the couple, but no one had expected Jim to make the abrupt and quiet decision to end things. It all began with a string of heated arguments that reportedly got worse over the course of the previous year. The once-loving couple, who had endured many ups and downs in their relationship, started to show signs of tension that were hard to ignore. Chrissy, who had been Jim's rock for so long, was reportedly taken aback by the news. She had always supported Jim's career and their life together. But as the months passed, she began to notice that Jim was growing more aloof. At first, Chrissy thought everything was fine. But the insider added that Jim had been renouncing their relationship. Chrissy, who had been looking forward to their future plans, was shocked when Jim calmly told her he wanted a divorce. It was like a slap in the face. She tried everything to make things better for months, but Jim was no longer the same. It all came to a head one evening when Jim allegedly dropped the bombshell during a routine dinner. According to a close friend of the couple, Chrissy didn't see it coming and assumed they were working things out. However, Jim had already made up his mind. What was even more shocking was the way Jim handled the situation. Instead of talking openly with Chrissy, he decided to quietly file for divorce behind her back. There were no public announcements, no heated arguments, and no dramatic confrontations. Just Jim going about his business. Jim proceeded with the divorce without providing Chrissy with any prior notice, allowing her to learn about it from the media. Jim never gave her the courtesy of a proper conversation. It was cold, calculated, and cruel. The same insider says, sudden and secretive move by Jim raised eyebrows among friends and family, with many questioning his reasons for not handling the situation more openly. Was there something else going on behind the scenes here? Some sources are speculating that Jim might have been seeing someone else, but no hard proof has emerged. Apparently, a self-assured Jim might have found solace elsewhere, but Chrissy was unaware of what transpired next. Fans who had come to love the couple over the years were left stunned and perplexed. And social media was ablaze with theories and conjectures. Numerous fans expressed their surprise at the abrupt divorce, writing things like, "I can't believe Jim would do this to Chrissy. They were supposed to be a power couple, and this is so unexpected. I never thought Jim would end things like this. What happened?" Fans were having a hard time processing the news that Chrissy was reportedly devastated. According to sources close to her, she was completely heartbroken and felt betrayed and humiliated by Jim's actions. Chrissy feels like she's been blindsided because she gave him everything, and this is how he repays her, says a family member. She has been finding It's difficult to believe what has happened in the days that have followed. For the first time since the news broke, Chrissy was seen in public. According to a close friend, she never expected Jim to end things like this. And she's trying to stay strong, but it's hard for her. Her demeanor was solemn, and she seemed to be lost in thought, clearly overwhelmed by the emotional turmoil. As the drama played out, fans started to make assumptions about what might have caused the split. Some said that Jim and Chrissy had just drifted apart over time, while others thought that external factors like their hectic work schedules and ongoing public scrutiny had damaged their relationship. Being in the spotlight is difficult for any relationship, according to the media. However, it appears that Jim and Chrissy were able to cope with the pressure. Now that it has finally caught up with them, many fans seem to find resonance in the idea of growing apart. This is because both Jim and Chrissy had experienced significant personal growth in recent years. Jim, who had been concentrating on his music career and various business endeavors, had become busier and more distant, while Chrissy, on the other hand, were living separate lives in many ways. And the emotional distance between them had become obvious to those around them. There were no more romantic gestures or date nights, according to an insider, because she had begun pursuing her own interests, such as her work in the fashion industry, which took up more of her time. The most unexpected aspect of this entire story is that Jim never publicly addressed the divorce, choosing instead to keep quiet and leave Chrissy to handle the fallout on her own. They were living more like roommates than a couple, so it was only a matter of time until something gave many the impression that the lack of connection and communication ultimately led to Jim's decision to end the relationship. He didn't give Chrissy or anyone else a chance to understand his reasons. He just disappeared, a source claims. His silence has only added fuel to the fire, with many fans feeling that Jim's actions were cowardly and disrespectful. He could have, at least, spoken out and explained himself. One fan says, "But now we're left with nothing but rumors and speculation. It's not fair to Chrissy as the days pass." It seems fans are left wondering if there is more to the story than meets the eye. Was there emotional betrayal, infidelity, or just two people growing apart after decades of dating? Whatever the reason, one thing is certain: Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin once shared a close and loving bond. However, the real reasons behind the divorce may never be fully disclosed because Jim and Chrissy have both remained silent about the specifics, has now ended and left a trail of heartache, confusion, and unsolved questions. Fans are still in shock over the news, and it will be a while before they completely comprehend what caused this once inseparable couple to split up. As the days went by and the divorce of Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin continued to dominate headlines, more information started to come to light, presenting a far more complicated and emotional picture of what had actually transpired behind the scenes. Sources close to the couple started to reveal more details. Fans still in shock demanded answers, but those answers seemed ambiguous. One of the most shocking revelations came from close friends. Rumors started to circulate that Jim had been involved in another relationship that had quietly developed. Over the past year, this was something no one had anticipated, and sources suggested that Jim's decision to file for divorce was not just the result of a few heated arguments or growing apart. These rumors suggested that Jim may have committed a much deeper betrayal long before the divorce was filed. Left Chrissy and fans wondering how Jim could have kept such a big secret. Rumors circulated for months that someone close to Jim's inner circle had seen him with someone else, but no one could verify it. Chrissy was unaware of this and never suspected that Jim had dated someone else because she believed their relationship was stable after everything they had been through together. Chrissy was shocked to learn that Jim had betrayed her so severely. She had always been the one to support him without reservation, and now it seemed as though her trust had been broken in the worst way possible. This news was devastating to Chrissy. How could Jim betray her in this way? She had given him everything, including love, royalty, and devotion. Nevertheless, it appears that he had been searching elsewhere. According to insiders, Chrissy learned about the affair in the most agonizing way possible from the media. One insider explains that she was caught off guard and was shocked when she first learned about it. As the rumors began to circulate online, she was shocked to learn that Jim had been seeing. Jim didn't seem to care. He just let everything happen without saying a word. This silence from Jim only served to increase the resentment. In the middle of all the chaos, Jen remained silent and refused to address their remorse, leaving fans and friends wondering why he wouldn't come clean. Chrissy deserved to know the truth, according to one source, and confusion surrounding the split. Fans who had previously admired the couple felt deceived by Jim's silence and refusal to provide his version of events. As more details emerged, the emotional toll on Chrissy became more apparent, and friends who had been close to the couple described her as heartbroken and struggling to deal with the reality of the divorce and the affair. It's difficult for her to rely on her friends for support, but she says it's a family member. She never thought this would happen because she thought Jim was the only person she could rely on, but now everything has changed. While Chrissy was struggling with her feelings, Jim seemed to be handling the situation differently. Sources said he was more focused on his reputation and career. However, Kay's friend claims that Jim has always been business-oriented and has been using the divorce to promote his music, brand, and image. He doesn't focus on the emotional aspects of things. Instead, he is focused on how he appears to the public. Fans didn't like this business-first mentality because they thought Jim was taking advantage of the drama for his own benefit. In the weeks after the divorce announcement, fans noticed that Jim was no longer accepting responsibility for the hurt he had caused Chrissy. He was more often seen on social media sharing promotional content for his music and other endeavors. And although his posts were full of positive messages and glitzy images, there was an unmistakable tension behind the facade of Jim's typically carefree demeanor. Was forced, as though he were putting on a show to divert his attention from the emotional devastation of his personal life. One admirer commented, "It seems like he's trying to convince everyone, including himself, that everything is fine, but we can all see through it." In the meantime, Chrissy's social media activity became somewhat more subdued. Fans quickly started to surmise that she was directing these posts because, rather than the bold, self-assured posts they had grown accustomed to, she became more introspective, sharing cryptic messages about love, heartbreak, and moving on. She wrote in one tearful tweet that the strength to move forward comes from within. At Jim, many people came together to support Chrissy, writing things like, "Chrissy is so strong and she'll get through this. She deserves better than what Jim did to her." Jim was spotted at several public gatherings as the tension increased and a number of dramatic developments occurred. He was pictured at one of these events with a woman who many thought was the woman he had slept with during the affair. The picture went viral on social media, and fans couldn't help but compare the new woman to Chrissy. One fan wrote, "How could he do that to Chrissy so soon after everything?" The new relationship, whether serious or not, only fueled the flames, and many started to doubt Jim's commitment to the marriage in the first place. The media frenzy peaked when Jim was questioned directly about his relationship with the woman in question. But instead of providing a definitive response, Jim once again chose to remain silent and refused to comment, which only made the situation worse. Fans felt betrayed by him, and one follower stated, "It's like he's hiding something, and it makes everything feel even worse. He could have at least been honest." Fans were left wondering about Jim's genuine motives when he refused to address the reports regarding his new relationship. While Chrissy remained cantered on her personal recovery, sources close to her disclosed that she had been going to therapy to help deal with the trauma of the divorce and the betrayal. She's doing the best she can, according to a close friend, but it's been extremely difficult for her. She never imagined Jim would hurt her in this way. Although Chrissy was showing bravery in public, those closest to her knew how much pain she was in. As the months passed and the drama surrounding Jim and Chrissy's divorce only grew more intense, fans stayed glued to their screens, hoping for any new information or clue as to what had actually transpired between the once-strong couple. Some fans took to social media to express their support for Chrissy, while others took to the same platform to vent their anger at Jim's actions. As the dust settled, it became evident that the breakup of Jim and Chrissy's relationship was far more complicated than anyone had imagined. The affair, the silence, the emotional toll all of pointed to a much deeper betrayal than fans could have ever imagined. At one point, a fan wrote, "We want the truth," hoping she would find happiness again. The public's desire for answers only increased as the news of Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's abrupt split continued to break down the once solid facade of their relationship, raising the question of whether Jim would ever come clean about what truly happened, or would he continue to hide behind the facade of his public persona. As the weeks turned into months, the mystery surrounding their divorce grew. More fans, who had previously expressed unwavering support for the couple, were now divided. The more they learned, the more they wondered if this was all a misunderstanding, or if there had been a deeper betrayal that no one could have predicted. The affair wasn't the only thing that left fans wondering. As time went on, new information about Jim's actions during the last years of their relationship started to surface, and the truth was far from clear. Surprisingly, according to several people close to the couple, Jim's detachment wasn't a recent problem. Rather, it had been going on for years. Chrissy had been there for him no matter what, and Jim had gradually begun to emotionally and mentally distance himself from her. What had begun as minor, seemingly unimportant moments of tension turned into a full-fledged, according to an insider who was close to both Jim and Chrissy during their relationship. Jim was emotionally distant from her feelings and wasn't as invested in the relationship as Chrissy believed. She gave him unconditional love, support, and devotion. However, over time, Jim began to change. Observed the shift, but she refused to accept it, believing it to be a passing phase. As Jim's career took off as a major player in the hip-hop industry, the strain on him to remain relevant grew stronger over time. And Chrissy had supported him through years of intense pressure. It was all the ups and downs, the conflicts with the media, and the difficulties of being in the spotlight. But as Jim's attention turned more to his career, he began to neglect the relationship he once held close. Chrissy always believed that their love would endure no matter what. And a close friend of hers shares that she was unaware that Jim was concentrating more on his fame, his brand, and his career. It was as if he had just begun. Regarding her, as a part of his past, he wasn't considering the future with her, because he was too preoccupied with his own goals. Despite her suspicions, Chrissy made every attempt to keep the relationship going and rekindle the passion that once made their bond unbreakable. But Jim's emotional absence became more difficult to ignore, and it felt like she was fighting a losing battle, according to another insider, no matter how hard she tried to get his attention. He was already too far gone to make things worse. Jim's behavior behind closed doors only served to fuel rumors of infidelity. While fans had initially assumed that the breakup was the result of a small argument or a straightforward misunderstanding, she could see him drifting away, but he wasn't even willing to try anymore. It quickly became apparent that the problems were far more serious. What had begun as a harmless flirtation had developed into a committed relationship that Jim had been attempting to conceal from Chrissy. According to certain sources, Jim's new lover was someone he had known for some time and who had played a significant role in his social circle. Jim was unwilling to talk about this new relationship publicly and kept it a secret. For as long as possible, Jim's new girlfriend was kept under wraps. According to an insider, Chrissy never suspected anything because Jim was always so cautious about keeping his personal life private. The truth didn't start to surface until after the divorce was finalized, at which point people started to make connections as new information surfaced and rumors started to circulate. Fans who had previously viewed Jim as the charismatic, self-assured rapper were now doubting his loyalty. And integrity and his silence on the subject only served to increase the public's annoyance. People were demanding answers, but Jim refused to provide them, instead continuing to share photos of himself traveling and having a good time. According to those close to her, Chrissy was dealing with the fallout from Jim's betrayal, and while promoting his music, it appeared as though he was attempting to divert attention from the mounting tension in his personal life. The pain of witnessing her once committed partner move on so swiftly was too much for her to handle. She was taken by surprise by a close friend, who she never imagined could do such a thing to her. The betrayal was like a kick in the face, even though Chrissy's heart ached. She chose to put herself first and began going to therapy to deal with the trauma of the breakup. The friend goes on to say that it was crucial that she look after herself. She realized that she needed to recover. Before she could proceed, she didn't want Jim's actions to destroy her. She wanted to emerge from this stronger than before. Many of Chrissy's admirers found inspiration in her decision to prioritize her own personal development and recovery. She's been through so much, but she's still standing strong. She's a true queen. Twitter user IsResilient said. Admirers came together to support her as she started to disclose more about her recovery process on social media. Support Chrissy, we've got your back. At the same time that Jim's reputation was deteriorating, admirers who had previously supported him started to voice their dissatisfaction with his behavior. Another fan said, "You don't need Jim. You deserve so much more." Refusing to respond to the accusations or provide an explanation for his actions only served to fuel the flames. One follower wrote, "It's not fair to Chrissy or to the fans who looked up to him." The more Jim said nothing, the more fans started to wonder if he was the real Jim. Jim took to social media to post a mysterious message about and finding peace. Sometimes you have to let go to find your true happiness, with the caption, "Life is about growth and learning from your mistakes." Could they have admired the man? Or was he just another celebrity hiding behind a carefully crafted persona? He's simply playing the victim, one fan remarked, while others regarded the message as a ploy to divert attention from the true problems. He hasn't apologized for anything, and now he's talking about growth. It doesn't work like that, another fan wrote. While Chrissy's healing process was still going on, Jim's public backlash against him grew stronger as he continued to post on social media and promote his music. Fans felt deceived not only by his affair, but also by his lack of accountability. And many started to question whether Jim would ever genuinely apologize to Chrissy and accept responsibility for the harm he had caused. It would take some time for her to fully recover from the emotional toll of the divorce, but she was determined to move on. Her supporters from her time with Jim remained by her side, and one follower tweeted, "She's going to come out of this even better than before." As the story of Jim and the media frenzy, the emotional roller coaster, the betrayal, and Chrissy's divorce continued to dominate headlines, making it evident that this was no typical breakup. Jim seemed to move on, seemingly unaffected by the fallout. But Chrissy's path to healing had only just begun, and everyone was watching to see what would happen next. As the days went by and the media coverage of Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's split increased, the drama only seemed to get worse. The public was enamored, but it wasn't just curiosity that pulled attention to the story. There was a strong sense Chrissy had always been portrayed as Jim's strong, supportive partner, who had been there for him through thick and thin. Many fans were devastated and incensed to learn that the man she had spent so much of her life with had moved on, betrayed her, and refused to take responsibility for his actions. Jim's typical public persona of confidence and bravado was absent because of the growing outrage from their supporters. Instead, he posted ambiguous messages on social media that suggested he was moving on and concentrating on his work, which some fans attempted to read as a sign of maturity as time went on. Chrissy's friends revealed that she had taken the initiative to start focusing on herself more than ever before. Others were becoming increasingly frustrated with Jim's refusal to directly address the situation. They wanted answers, not cryptic Instagram quotes. The emotional toll of the breakup was undoubtedly overwhelming. Prior to the media frenzy, which was exhausting but also gave her a sense of clarity, Chrissy realized that she didn't need Jim to define her or validate her worth. She was more than just Jim Jones's girlfriend or partner. She was Chrissy Lampkin, a strong, independent woman in her own right. In an exclusive interview with a close friend, it was disclosed that Chrissy had thoughtfully considered a story of Jim's betrayal continued to develop while Chrissy was reestablishing herself. Her friend commented that her relationship with Jim was painful, but Chrissy has always been resilient and doesn't let things break her down. She knows that her value is independent of anyone, especially not someone who couldn't appreciate her. The gossip surrounding the affair only got worse. When it was discovered that Jim's new girlfriend wasn't just a member of his social circle, but had been seeing him for a while. According to people close to Jim, he had been seeing her behind Chrissy's back for months before the divorce was even finalized. However, the most startling revelation of all came from an unnamed source, who said that Jim had even attempted to persuade Chrissy to remain together despite his affair. The source claimed that Jim had even told Chrissy that the affair wasn't serious and that he was just confused. Chrissy was reportedly upset by Jim's obvious indifference to her feelings and the betrayal she had to endure. And she confronted him about it, but he insisted that he wasn't prepared to end the relationship despite the affair. It was a mess, and Jim didn't know how to handle it. According to the source, he was trying to have it both ways, wanting to keep Chrissy in his life but not wanting to stop seeing the other woman. He was selfish and naive to think that Chrissy would accept that fans who are already devastated by the affair would now be furious that Jim had attempted to coerce her into continuing a relationship that was founded solely on lies. Social media erupted in irate remarks, with numerous followers denouncing Jim for his hypocrisy and treachery, saying, "This is why I can't trust celebrities." One fan said they think they can treat people any way they want and then just move on like nothing happened, even if more followers discovered about the affair. And Jim's attempt to explain it, the more they began to doubt his conduct. Fan remarked, "He assumes he can play both sides, but it's obvious who the real victim is here." In the midst of the betrayal, Chrissy made the brave choice to share her story on her own terms in a strong and moving Instagram post. Chrissy deserves better than this. Jim remained mute in the face of these disclosures. But Chrissy's tenacity continued to show. Dealing with the breakup head-on, she wrote, "I spent a lot of time reflecting on the past, on the love that was once there, and on the pain that came with the lies. It's never easy to walk away from someone you thought you'd spend your life with. But I'm not here to be anyone's fool or second choice." After her statement shocked the internet, admirers showered her with supportive and admiring comments, saying things like, "You're so strong, Chrissy." Another fan added, "You deserve the world. Don't ever let anyone make you feel inferior. Feel inferior." The overwhelming support demonstrated how much people respected Chrissy for her resilience. During the most trying time in her life, they admired her for taking charge of her story and not allowing Jim's actions to define her. For Jim, however, the fallout from his actions wasn't as straightforward. In a last-ditch effort to save his reputation, Jim decided to finally speak out after his fanbase had grown and he was feeling more alone than ever. He uploaded a video to his social media accounts to address their remorse and confirmed that the divorce had been final. But instead of taking responsibility for it, he chose Tofans weren't impressed by his evasive remarks about growing as a person. And moving on, saying, "It's not easy, but I'm moving forward. Got a lot of love for Chrissy, and I wish her nothing but the best." Jim stated in the video that life is about learning from mistakes, and I've learned a lot. The drama unfolded, and one fan noted he still doesn't get it. The absence of a genuine apology left them expecting a more sincere reaction that acknowledged the damage he had caused and showed some genuine remorse. Fans were divided as it became more apparent that the fallout from the split would be as complex as the relationship itself. While some remained loyal to Jim, others rallied behind Chrissy. Jim's silence regarding the affair and his failure to fully accept responsibility for his actions left many questions unanswered, and the public continued to speculate about what Jim would do next, while Jim's public image continued to deteriorate. Chrissy refused to let anyone dictate how she should feel about her own life or let Jim's betrayal define her. Chrissy's path to self-love and healing had only just begun, and the drama surrounding their divorce was far from over. The public would continue to demand answers, but it was evident that for the time being, Jim and Chrissy were leading very different lives, and with stories seemed to get more complicated, dramatic, and unpredictable every day than anyone could have predicted as the aftermath of Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin's split continued to make headlines. The tension between the two ex-partners escalated, and Chrissy, who had already moved on emotionally from the relationship, was concentrating more on her own development and the support of her friends and family, while Jim struggled with the ongoing scrutiny that accompanied his actions. His carefully constructed image was falling apart as new details about his affair surfaced, and the public's reaction was harsher than he had expected. Jim stayed mostly silent behind his cryptic social media posts, while Chrissy was anything but quiet. Her supporters were applauding her for standing up for herself and taking charge of her story. She had transformed from the broken woman abandoned to a symbol of fortitude and self-reliance as Jim's reputation declined. Chrissy's star appeared to be rising, but just when it appeared that Jim might become forgotten, a bombshell was dropped in the midst of all the drama. Jim Jones made an unexpected return to the media with his first significant public statement since the divorce, but it was far from the apology that people had hoped for. Instead, it was full of evasive explanations and covert attempts to place the blame. He started blaming outside forces for the breakdown of his relationship with Chrissy, citing the stress of being in the spotlight as a key contributing factor. In an exclusive interview, Jim stated, "Sometimes life throws a lot at you, and things don't work out the way you expect. We tried, we really did, but at the end of the day, we're two different people. I made mistakes, but I'm trying to better myself." Fans quickly took to social media to tonalize every word of his statement, making it everyone else's fault. "Typical Jim move," one fan remarked. Others accused him of playing the victim rather than accepting responsibility for the hurt he had caused Chrissy. But it wasn't just in an exclusive interview. A close friend of Chrissy's, who had previously kept quiet, came forward to denounce Jim's behavior. She revealed the emotional toll Jim's actions had taken on Chrissy and was blunt about how poorly Jim handled the situation. The fans were upset, and Chrissy's friends and family were furious, and their anger was now spilling out into public view. After hearing C's friend's statement that he didn't want to be open or honest with her, he pushed her away when she needed him the most. Now, instead of taking responsibility for his actions, he is blaming outside forces. This is just reprehensible. After hearing these remarks, many fans expressed their shock that Jim hadn't accepted full responsibility. As the weeks passed, Jim appeared to be caught in a vicious cycle of negative publicity, and more details about his affair surfaced, including startling details about his behavior behind closed doors. Sources close to Chrissy said that Jim had not really tried to make amends for the hurt he had caused, and his attempt to shift the blame did little to mend his image. Instead, he chose to keep up his relationship with the other woman. In fact, it was eventually discovered that he had begun introducing her to friends and family as though the affair were just another part of his life. Despite everything, Chrissy maintained her composure and told the media that she had no interest in a public argument with. Instead, she decided to put her work, relationships, and herself first. What was most important to her was a confident smile that she shared on Instagram, "More resilient than yesterday." The caption reads, "She received hundreds of thousands of likes on her post, and thousands Mairead Myers commended her for her fortitude and her choice to move on gracefully, saying, "You've always been a queen." Christina Dot, as one fan put it, "Don't allow anyone to make you feel less bright." Jim's, meanwhile, public image kept deteriorating. Kate and his formerly devoted followers were now doubting. People began to investigate his past behavior, recalling everything about him with a new perspective on his moments of contempt and conceit. His attempts at atonement were failing. Apartment. As the people couldn't accept the suffering he had inflicted on Chrissy and Ansem, of Jim's closest pals, revealed information in an unexpected turn of events into his mental state throughout the split, describing him as a man who battled feelings of insecurity and done-for, but rather than use that weakness to mature, he had reacted in ways that wounded his loved ones. According to his acquaintances, he had looked for solace in a new relationship prior to the divorce being finalized, which online exacerbated the harm. But Jim insisted that he was finished defending himself, saying, "I've spoken what I needed to say, I'm acting on it." And finally, he wrote, "I hope everyone else does too." But the reality was, it was evident to all those listening that Jim Jones was avoiding the repercussions of his failure, acknowledging all was a betrayal of Chrissy and his long-standing supporters who had been there for him without conditions for so long that the tumultuous divorce had become a warning to Thea. Public warning that love is brittle and that treachery can have far-reaching effects, surpassing everyone's expectations. As Jim attempted to move on and preserve his reputation after finding the courage to leave a situation, Chrissy came out stronger and more self-reliant than before. Unhealthy relationship, and she had refused to be dictated to by anybody, particularly Jim. Yet, it became evident at the end of the day that the consequences of this split extended beyond Jim and Chrissy. Regarding the admirers, those who had witnessed their relationship develop over time and who now had to topped in the fact that not all relationships end well, but for Chrissy, the future was as we conclude this startling episode. She was prepared to write her own story. There is no denying the drama in this story of treachery, heartache, and forgiveness. The relationship between Chrissy Lampkin and Jim Jones has enthralled people worldwide, and it's far. What are your thoughts on this unexpected split? Do you accept Jim's version of events, or do you think Chrissy was correct to end the relationship? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Please remember to like this video if you're as engrossed in this narrative as we are. We enjoy hearing your thoughts. This story is just the beginning of many juicy celebrity updates. So please share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel, The Iceberg. And we'll keep you informed on all the most recent developments. Watch this space for more.